Hi, I'm Dan Miller, Historical Solutions, LLC, and this is Americanism Redux. I'm coming to you again for the now second time to summarize my stories. And just to remind you, I've written stories just for you that are about America 250 years ago today, one story at a time, 1 week at a time, to take you to the American founding in July of 1776. Now, our river began back in the summer of 1772, this past summer for us, 250 years ago, and I thought it would be a good idea to just quickly hit those high notes of what the summer of 72 showed us. It showed us four things to start out. Number one, that life was diverse in every sense of the word diverse. Number two, life was fixed and hard. Number three, life had a kind of a raging tension about a quarter inch below the surface beneath the crust. And number four, life was all about consent. Whether you had it, whether you didn't have it, life was about consent. And so, from the fourth quarter of October, November, December of 1772, we found three things. Number one, we found a big problem in a small place. The big problem was the power over judges, who paid them, who could fire them, who could hire them, the power over judges. The small place was Boston, Massachusetts, the colony of Massachusetts, the community of Boston. And they're in an argument, a knockdown, drag-out fight and argument over who controls the judges. On the pro-imperial side, the belief is that England and the imperial government there controls the judges in Boston and Massachusetts. On the pro-colonial side, there's the belief that the local people, through their locally elected representatives, they control the judges. And so there's no point in between. It's one way or the other, and they're in a brawl in newspapers, they're in a brawl in public debates, they're in a brawl in open meetings and forums in late 1772. Now that problem leads to a first-time structure. Samuel Adams, again in Boston, again in Massachusetts, Samuel Adams develops a thing called the Committee of Correspondence. And it's a group, 10, 20, 30 people that come together to collect and disseminate anything that has to do with the pro-colonial side. An argument, a position, an opinion, a fact, a rumor, doesn't make any difference. They're trying to get it in and then spread it out to other towns in Massachusetts and to other colonies up and down the East Coast. So this is the first Committee of Correspondence, and Samuel Adams wants every community to have one, and he wants every community and every colony to have one. That's the response to the tension over judges. The second thing that we found is that there's new everything. There's new communities, there's new settlements, there are new arrivals of immigrants, there are new arrivals of enslaved black men, women, and children as well. There's new everything throughout the fall and early winter of 1772. There's also new tensions, which we just talked about before. So new everything. Third and finally, and this is an important one, there is a powerful bond. It's invisible, but it's very, very alive and vibrant. A powerful bond between old world and new, between England and the colonies in America, and even between Europe and the colonies in America. And it can express itself in some surprising ways. I'll give you a few quick examples from my stories that you've been following from the fourth quarter of 1772. There's any innovation that you want to develop in the New World pretty much has to get endorsed or validated or legitimized in the Old World. So innovations that are started here in the colonies have to go to England to get a kind of endorsement, is the belief. Another example that we ran into was a Spanish colonial administrator in Mexico who jotted down on his own about 25 ideas, recommendations for the better administration of colonies in the New World. He sends that list of recommendations to his superiors in Madrid, Spain. And then finally, there's a man who spent most of his life selling and transporting enslaved black men, women, and children. And he's finally had enough. His conscience has finally got the best of him. And in late 1772 in England, he sits down to write a song that will soon be sung across the British Isles, across Europe, and into the New World. His name is John Newton, and the song is Amazing Grace. So, the late 1772, we have a big problem in a small place. And by the way, that big problem that we talked about before has enormous implications for whose rights are they anyway. Number two, we saw new everything. And then number three, we saw the bond that is so powerful between old world and new that was alive and well in October, November, December of 1772. Now, just to remind you of why we're doing this, why I'm doing this for you. I believe that as we get to our 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, which will occur in July of 2026, the best way for us to know who we are as Americans then will be to understand better who we were as Americans back 250 years prior. So that's why you and I, story by story, week by week, we're traveling down the river toward American independence. I'm Dan Miller, and until next time, I offer you this. Welcome to Americanism Redux.